Hey everybody, it's Yoga Day, and today we're going to do something a little different, a little less on the traditional end of the spectrum, and we're going to break our yoga class into a couple of different segments. Granted, it's not traditional, but if we're honest, not everybody has every single day of their lives 60 to 75 to 90 minutes to devote to a yoga practice. And what I'm trying to do is give people the opportunity to do what they can versus doing nothing at all. So today's approach kind of serves as a little, smorgasbord, if you will, of options. Some of you may really need the relaxation that comes at the end of the yoga class, and that's what you need on this day. Some of you may need the fire of a warrior sequence today. Some of you may want to strengthen your upper body and your core today. Everybody has a different need, and by breaking things up and doing smaller segments, not only hopefully should you be able to fit something in instead of not doing anything at all, but you can pick what best suits you. So this first segment is going to be our warm-up piece, and we're also going to go through a number of variations on the Vinyasa. So this is also where you'll get your upper body and your core work. We're also going to do a little bit of planking. I hope you love it. Let me know. Let's start on our backs with the knees bent and the feet flat on the floor. And we're just going to take a little time to relax. Actually, as we start, if you prefer to extend your legs out in front of you, by all means, go ahead and do that. Let's just relax, close the eyes. Starting to become more aware of your breath, not necessarily changing it at this point, but just becoming more aware of it. You can listen to it, you can kind of make a mental list of the different sensations that go along with your breathing, but let's draw the mind here to the body and to the breath. Start to make your breath bigger, deeper than it was just a moment ago, so that you really are taking a full breath in and out. So while we have the time simply to focus on the breathing, we'll go through specific patterns and ideas, but it bears remembering always that during the class, breathe in any way that allows you to breathe. Ultimately, we want to try to build up this pattern and keep it going throughout a yoga class. But for now, if it confuses you or if it makes you stop and start a lot, just remember to breathe. That's all we need to be doing. For the purpose of beginning the habit, let's start to breathe both in and out through the nose. Again, this may be no different from what you did a moment ago. It may be totally different. It's all good. And as you take these deep breaths in and out through the nose, start to become aware of where you feel your breath originating from and returning to. So that initial rise of the inhale and that final fall of the exhale. And if you notice that that origin is sitting above the waist, see if you can nudge it down a little bit. Sometimes it can be stubborn, so don't judge if you can't get it all the way into the really low belly, but just try to move it down a little bit. And what that's doing is taking our breath into a more grounded place. If we breathe up in our chest, it tends to be more anxiety producing, so we're just bringing it down so that it becomes a calmer breath. So inhaling, expanding out into all the areas of the core, and then exhaling and drawing that breath right back in to that low center. As you take these deep breaths, see if you can let your head, your shoulders, your legs, your feet sink down into the mat. Release tension where it doesn't need to be. So keep that nice big breath going and just open your arms out to the sides. And then keeping the shoulder blades planted to the floor, let your lower half begin to gently rock side to side. Always when we're just starting, feel free to make it small to begin with. And then as you gradually get warmer, feel less tension, then you can make that rock bigger. We'll just rock a couple more times in each direction. And then when you're ready, return to center. Bring your arms to your sides and place your feet about hip or sitting bone distance apart. We're just going to do 5 or 6 bridges. Inhaling as we roll up, peeling the spine away from the floor, and exhaling as we roll that spine back down. So you're waking up your core muscles, getting a little stretch, inhaling on the way up, and exhaling on the way down. Let's just do that 2 more times. This will be our last bridge. Relax the jaw. Good. And as we come down out of this last bridge, you can either rock yourself up and over onto all fours or roll to one side and come up. Doesn't have to be pretty either. Once you get to all fours, wrists underneath the shoulders, knees right underneath the hips. Couple rounds of cat-cow. Inhale, arc. Exhale, round. Continuing what the bridge started, articulating through that spine, waking and warming. Let's do 2 more rounds. One more, inhaling to arc, exhaling to round, and then finding that middle ground, that neutral spine. in between. Let's take spinal balance. One arm, opposite leg. Inhaling, we reach them out. Exhaling, returning to the mat. Inhale to reach. Exhale to return. You want to try to keep your weight centered between your right and your left sides, turning on the core muscles to create stability. And this is warming up those core muscles on all four sides of the body for what's to come. Let's do one more round. Inhaling on the out, exhaling on the in. And then let's find a child's pose. Arms can walk out in front of us. Fingers can spread nice and wide. Take a few deep breaths here. Settle in. And then we're going to start to build those vinyasa variations. So the first one is on the knees as far as the planking and the chaturanga push-up go. So when you are ready, arms are really walked out there in front of us already. Fingertips are spread. We're going to shift the weight forward just enough to bring the shoulders over the wrists and to feel the core kick in. And then we're going to shift straight back again. So it's an inhale as we come forward. And then on the exhale, let's engage those lower abdominals and think of pulling the sitting bones or the tailbone toward the heels. So we inhale as we shift forward, and we exhale as we shift back. And you'll notice as I shift forward, I'm maintaining a neutral spine. So I'm not dropping my hips down and arching my back. We want to keep that low back supported. Nor am I leaving my rear end up in the air. So I'm just maintaining the shape of my spine, the length in my spine, the natural curves in my spine. Let's do one more like this, and then we'll add that chaturanga. So we inhale as we come forward, and then we exhale back to that child's pose. Let's add on. So we inhale, shift forward just enough to turn your core on. Exhale, small push-up, elbows straight back. Inhale up, and exhale, child's pose. Inhale forward. Exhale, soften. Inhale, press. Exhale back. Just 2 more times like this. So if you know when Vinyasa comes around in a class, which is traditionally a plank, a chaturanga push-up, a chest opener, and then a downward facing dog, but you know some of those positions your body doesn't love them. This is a beautiful option, and I'm still working hard. Let's hold that child's pose here and relax for a few breaths. So here's another variation. This one's a little funky. You may or may not love it. You can fast forward, by the way, through any of the variations that don't work well for your body and stick with the ones that do. For this, we're going to move just a little bit farther back on our mat. Arms still walk out in front of us. So this time, this is called snake. What you're going to do is you're going to bend your elbows. They're going to fan out to the sides. As you come forward, your chest is low and your hips are high. You're going to bring yourself down to the mat, elbows pull into your sides, and then shoulders down, float the chest, lift the belly button toward the spine, and then gently lower down. You are welcome to go back to child's pose or curl the toes under and come on up. Find that downward facing dog. Because it is our first one, I want you to spend a little time here, pedal out the feet, Maybe move the hips a little bit. Loosen everything up. Remember, option for down dog is to hover both heels and soften both knees so that you can lift the sitting bones up, and that allows tighter hamstrings to work well in this position. So we'll take one more breath here, pulling the shoulder blades toward the waist, and then we'll lower the knees and we'll rock it back to child's pose. And we'll do that 2 more times. So remember, as you snake out, the elbows are going to fan out to the side, but as you come down, they're going to pull in toward your waist. So when you're ready, we'll take a full breath to snake it forward. And then inhale, cobra. Exhale, lower. Full breath up to downward facing dog. Hold here. Any variation that you like. You can pedal, you can hover and bend, you can just focus on lengthening and stretching that body out. Bringing the shoulders down away from the ears. And then lift the heels, bring the knees to the mat, and find child's pose. I forget how many times I said we were going to do this. We're going to do it one more time. So when you're ready, full breath. Snake it forward, hips high, chest low. Pull those elbows in as you arrive on the mat. Inhale to come up. Exhale to come down. Either curl your toes or roll through your feet. Full breath up to that downward facing dog, and then hold the variation that works best for you. Fingers are spread out nice and wide. Top of the head is reaching for that space that's right in between your hands. Tailbone, sitting bones reaching toward the ceiling. And then when you are ready, lift the heels, bring the knees to the mat. Find child's pose and rest. Good. Take a couple of really nice big deep breaths here. And then we'll go for that next variation. So this one involves a full plank. So if you know that you want to go back to the plank on the knees and the child's pose, or you could even go from plank on the knees to a downward facing dog, you are more than welcome to do that. We're going to walk those arms out in front of us. The first plank we're going to transition into a little differently from the rest. So you're going to shift your weight forward on the knees into that plank position, and then curl your toes under and lift your knees up off the mat. So this is, in my opinion, the most important part for alignment. Right now, your shoulders are right over your wrists. You're going to take a big breath in here. As you exhale, before you lower down, shift forward. Lower slowly with control. And then we open up that chest. You don't have to come this high. We lower back down and we find downward facing dog. So the reason that little shift forward, breathe here, is so important is because it aligns the joints properly. So I really want you to make sure you find that shift. We'll take one more breath here in the down dog, and then we're going to shift into plank. If you need to, like me, kind of shuffle your feet back a little bit, feel free to do that. So we take an inhale in our normal plank. On the exhale, we shift forward and lower down. Inhale, draw the belly up away from the mat as you open. Exhale, lower. And then we want to take a full breath into that downward facing dog. So always an option to down dog is your child's pose, right? How about maybe 2 more really nice deep breaths, and then we'll do that variation one more time. I'm going to show you a modification if you want it. So come forward, find your plank position. So we inhale here. If you like, on the exhale, shift forward, lower your knees as you come down, and then open up on the inhale. Exhale, release to your mat. Full breath, downward facing dog. Give that spine a moment to really stretch it out. And then lift your heels, lower your knees to the mat, and rock it back. Find child's pose. If your shoulders need a break as we rest here, wrap your arms around the body and take all the weight off of the arms and the shoulders. And just breathe. So in that last variation, if you bring the knees down as you go into that push-up, it's a little bit easier on your upper body to lower to the mat with control. We have one more variation where we're going to change the cobra, the chest opener, into an upward facing dog. So if that doesn't work for you today, stick with the cobra that we did in the previous variations. So one more time, arms are going to come out in front of us. We're going to shift this first plank forward to the knees to start, and then curl the toes under. Find that full plank position. So as before, we inhale here. We exhale, shift forward, lower down, but not all the way, to a hover. Release the tops of your feet to the mat and lift from here so your thighs are still lifted up off the floor. And then we go straight from there into that downward facing dog. And we hold here any variation you like. Take a few breaths as you really stretch. And then when you're ready, take a nice full breath slowly to shift into your plank position. So we inhale here. We exhale, shift forward, lower part way. Release the tops of your feet to the mat and open up that front body, shoulders down away from the ears. Come straight up. Find your downward facing dog. Hold here. So you'll notice in Chaturanga, the push-up, in this variation, I can't go that far down. We all have different limitations in our shoulders, and that's one of mine. So don't feel like it has to be a deep push-up. I go until I feel like if I went any farther, I would drop. And then I open up into that upward facing dog. One more time. Take your time to come forward into plank. Keep breathing. And inhale here. Exhale, shift forward and lower. Tops of the feet release as we open up. Big breath in. And then exhale, downward facing dog. Good. Since this is our last one, why don't we pedal and release? Maybe a little shift in those hips. And then lift both heels. Lower the knees. Come back. Find one more child's pose. Bring your arms into your sides and relax with a few deep, deep breaths. So this is where I'm going to leave you on this particular segment. Enjoy. Stay here as long as you like. This could be it for you for today, or we can reconvene with the warrior segment next. See you later.